beautiful people. Welcome back to Organizing an ADHD Brain, where the perfect place to start is right where you are. I'm your host, Megs Crawford. I'm a professional organizer, an ADHD coach, and a fellow work in progress. Because let's be honest, we're all work in progress. This season 3, we're talking about the messy middle. Not about the before, not about the after, but all of the stuff that comes in between. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of stuff that comes in between that perfect before and after picture. So let's jump right in. Welcome to the podcast, Steven. I'm so excited to have you here. In true ADHD fashion, you reached out to me last summer in 2025. It's 2026, and I'm finally having you on the podcast. I'm honored that you reached out. You have such an incredible wealth of knowledge in the film industry and building businesses and an understanding now of productivity in a sense that could really help people with ADHD because you have ADHD yourself. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience and what else we should know about you?
Well, I'm here because I want to tell you how AI solves ADHD. I'm kidding. Doesn't it feel like every day you open the news and it's like, AI is now being used to cure this thing, do this thing, whatever. It's incredible. So
yeah, I'm thrilled that that is not why you're here.
It's not why we're here. But I read the news this morning before we recorded, and I was just like, every story was like, AI is now going to do this thing and that thing and the other thing. And they had a one where police, I think it's actually New England, they were sending their raw body cam footage from the police to an AI engine that was going to then just send tickets. It would be like, oh, while you were walking down the street, you saw someone jaywalk. I did facial recognition on them and we're going to mail them a ticket. And I was like,
that's just rude.
No.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. So anyway, Dave, it's great to be here. I hope this is one of your more entertaining and actionable and interesting episodes. I know you've done many entertaining and educational ones. So I'm hoping I can contribute.
You already have.
For those playing along at home or listening in the car or wherever you are, here's probably the reason to listen to this episode. As opposed to like the many other great episodes she's done, is it is true there are a lot of people you meet who's been a senior executive at a couple motion picture studios and also raised over $20 million of venture, sold a company, had 2 failed companies, and discovered as an adult some of the patterns in my life are the fact that I was medically diagnosed ADHD much later than a lot of people. And I was like, oh, suddenly a lot of this makes sense. So it's an interesting journey, and I hope some of those anecdotes and lessons are helpful.
What a cool experience to be able to talk to you and to have failed experiences, but also an incredibly successful career in what you're doing now and the company that you're currently running. Tell us a little bit about your current company.
Oh, so the funny thing is let me give you a little context for this, which is I started out in engineering. Both my parents, I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Cool.
Which is a big IBM town.
Yeah.
Because my parents are both engineers at IBM, right? So it's like, if your parents are both great ice skaters, you probably learned to ice skate as a kid, right?
Yeah.
So I knew how to code, even though it wasn't my main thing. So when I went to the University of Southern California, to USC, for college, I had a Watson scholarship, which meant IBM let me work there as a junior software engineer to make money for school whenever I wanted. I used to be like, hey, I can work this period of time. So I made money to do that on the side. And then lucky break coming, I was in LA at USC, which is probably the best cinema and TV school in the world, with a lot of friends in cinema, when film went digital. And I could bridge that divide because I had a lot of creative friends and done some creative stuff, as well as I could speak engineer, which not a lot of people could. So I got into producing digital film. And then that was fascinating. I did the digital effects for Independence Day and True Lies and Braveheart and like a ton of weird movies, just met all these directors. And I thought, wow, this is cool. But I'm just the guy they hired to do the digital part of their movie. I wonder how I could get to actually help make the whole movie. And that got me on the ladder to eventually, I was an executive vice president at DreamWorks for Kurtz Norcy, vice president at 20th Century Fox. It's where I ran like the diehard Wolverine franchises, stuff like that. And then here's the answer to your question. There was definitely a moment around Die Hard 5 at Fox where I was like, this is a terrible idea. It's a terrible script. And we're only making this because we know if the poster goes out and it says the 2 words Die Hard, it will make a certain amount of money because people are just like, I want to see John McClane say yippee-ki-yay. You know what I mean? So I was like, wow, am I going to wake up, be 40, 50 years old, be like, make another Die Hard movie. I really have an idea for it. And there's only one other thing I knew how to do, which was engineering. So I was like, okay, maybe I should say goodbye to this era and go back to engineering and see if there are problems I could solve. And one of the things that stood out for me is I had both in my tech career. I sold my first company in my 20s. That was with the director producer of Independence Day. We created a company, and I had seen high performers and how they managed to be sustainable in the way in which they dealt with their brains. And I'm talking about like screenwriters making $1-2 million a script, directors making $150 million movies, things like that. And I also saw the people who were just continually upset, burned out, tired, felt they were behind in life. And that was really inspiring for me. So what I've been doing the last 6 years is really learning about flow states, which I would love to talk about, because when I first discovered that, I didn't even know what a flow state was. I was just what happened, and helping people do the thing that they're capable of, which, as you know, there are a specific different set of challenges if you're neurotypical or neurodivergent. And now that I understand kind of where I sit on that, I kind of look at what I'm doing. I'm like, well, duh, of course, this is what you wanted to make.
I just love the fact that you've had all of these beautiful experiences, right? Like one could say,
failures, let's not forget. You learn from the failures.
Yes. But like you had this seemingly perfect career laid out for you as an engineer, and you're getting paid to go to school, but you pivot and go into film. And then you're an executive at an incredible company. And then you're also talking about pivoting careers. What a beautiful way to just highlight that that's a normal part of our brain, is that we do something and we are seemingly successful at it, and we still have other interests. We still have other things we want to pursue. And there's things that we're feeling and learning along that way as well. And that's really huge. It's not a destination. It is this journey of life and what we allow to come in.
It is in many ways a journey of exploration. And if you can explore things that you also get paid for, I mean, that's pretty damn cool.
It's pretty cool.
As you would say, holy smokes.
Holy smokes. I do say that.
Yes.
So as you know, as we talk about this, so your company now is to really allow people with ADHD to understand how to get into these flow states, how to understand their brain in a way that you're not burnt out, but you're also not trying so hard that you get to that point of burnout. So can you tell us a little bit more about this flow state and why you developed the company?
I know there's probably a cohort of the audience listening. They're like, I'm a flow master. I know flow states. I'm super cool and all that. So there's another cohort that's like, I've heard about it. I know it's becoming popular in the zeitgeist, these flow state. What is it exactly? So let me spend 30 seconds, just set the table. Okay.
Yeah.
Throw on the equal footing. So
love it.
There was a Hungarian-American psychologist, this guy, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he had a thesis. He said, you know what? If you talk to high performers in wildly different disciplines, athletes and artists and scientists and inventors, when they talk about the concentrated states they go into, where they do the thing that makes them famous, the thing we know them for, they talk about those states in very similar ways. And he was like, what's up with that? So he did the research, talked to so many people, and at the end of it, wrote a book called Flow. It is the seminal work on this. And he said the greatest thing about this word, he said, I chose this word because it was the most beautiful metaphor for what I found. We are all on the river paddling to move ourselves forward. But if you align your boat with the current, it carries you. It magnifies your efforts. You go further and faster. He said, that is what these high performers have figured out how to do, and do it repeatably. And it is a fascinating book. It is obviously from where we get the term flow state. And then, luckily in the intervening 30 odd years since he wrote that, there have been other smart minds, like standing on the shoulders of giants sort of thing, that have said, oh, let me dig into just this one aspect of it. Let me go really deep on distraction. And like Nir Eyal's done some amazing work in distraction. Like Cal Newport's written about, deep work versus shallow.
That book is so good. Yes.
It's a fantastic book, right? And also people have just said like, okay, so how does the brain, like what's the neuroscience behind this? And taking like jazz musicians, where is a very improvisational flow, like, sort of way to relate to other people in your jazz trio.
Yeah.
And look at their brains in fMRI machines. Be like, what changes when they slide into that flow state? And how the prefrontal cortex sort of shuts down. It's like, it's a measurable change in how your brain works in this state. And I will close with this anecdote. I did not know what a flow state was. I live in Austin, as you know.
Yeah.
I was going to SF to meet with my team the next day. And there was an idea I had for a feature that I wanted us to build. So I thought, you know what? My Figma skills are hacky enough. I can kind of put something together to show tomorrow. Be like, what do you think of this? Get on the flight. Alaska runs that nonstop route. Captain's like, hey, kids, sorry, Wi-Fi's out. See you in SFO, And I was like, okay. I start working. 15, 20 minutes later, we start descending. And I think, okay, we're still in Texas. Like we're landing at DFW because something's wrong with the plane. They don't want to scare us and tell us like the hydraulic system's out. We're landing to get a new plane, right? When we're on the ground, they'll tell us. I looked at the clock. 2 hours and 40 minutes had gone by. I had no concept of that. I couldn't tell you if the drink cart came by. I couldn't tell you the name of the fat dude on the seat next to me. Like I had no awareness of the world around me, but my designs were done and I liked them. And I don't know if you've ever done this, but I had already prepped myself for, okay, race to the Uber, grab a sandwich in the lobby, go up to the hotel room, finish the designs for the morning meeting, right? In reality, I got in the Uber and I called a buddy of mine at SF. I was like, hey man, I have a free night. Do you want to have dinner? And it felt incredibly cool to be ahead of my day instead of chasing my day, which, let's be honest, in my life was pretty rare feeling. Right?
Yeah.
And you've done some great episodes where you're talking about like the 291 unfinished things that are just staring you in the face and, all that. So later, as I became somewhat smarter and wiser, I was like, that was a flow state. And Mihai and Kotler and so many people have written down and say like, hey man, here's kind of the set of characteristics of a flow state. And by the way, there are some conditions you can set to help yourself get in. If you want to take advantage of this way your brain can work, here's some things you can do. So Mihai said, in flow states, you generally lose track of time. Check. That happened for me on a flight. I had no idea, right? He's like, distractions flow away. Check. I didn't really get distracted. Probably helped by the fact there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
No WhatsApps. There were no YouTube videos to watch. There was no news to read, right? You do your best work in a compressed amount of time. Check. In like under 3 hours, I got these designs done that I thought would take me 4 or 5. And he said, often at the end, you feel an uplifting sense of joy as opposed to depletion. You're not like, oh, that was so hard. I have to take a nap. It was like, yeah. I feel great. And he's like, that's this thing that some people know how to access. And Mihai, by the way, in the book, super cool. He's like, a lot of these high performers have their own word for it. Like I made up flow, but like he talks about different words. People use being in the zone, being in this and
hyper focus.
Exactly. Yeah. And so anyway, so to set the table, flow state, that's kind of what it is. We can talk about how to get into it, kind of what it's useful for, things like that. And I realize now the fact that I created a website to help people get into flow states probably relates a lot to the fact that throughout my career now, I see the patterns of this is how my ADHD mind tries to interact with to-dos and goals, which you did a great episode about, or vibes, whatever we call it.
It reminded me of a client that I worked with last year, and he's so incredible. We paused because he was traveling all over the world, really. But he talked about Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci is like this incredible human who came up with these beautiful works of art. Yes. And I'm like, sure, but he also didn't have a cell phone and probably didn't have kids or, a wife that you had to answer to and traveled all over the world.
He wasn't on Insta all day long. Yeah. Scroll, double tap, scroll, double tap.
Yes. So part of what we worked on, aside from organization, right, was the distraction of these constant notifications that are pulling you away from these ideas and these things that you wanted to work on. So one of the things that he worked on was just being able to paint for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours at a time so that he can enjoy this aspect about himself. Even he goes to a painting class once a week or so. Just what a cool experience. But I think that's, this comparison is the thief of joy thing, but it's because it's the journey that really allows us to get there. So in our crazy digital world that we're in today, a lot of people can't get into hyperfocus or shame themselves for hyperfocus or flow states because there are so many things distracting them that now a lot of the people that I talk to are so overwhelmed and don't know where to start.
Well, let us turn the microphones around.
Okay.
When you have something to do, we're actually like, hey, I got to sit down and write a blog post. I got to do my thing, my new website, whatever. what are the distractions that are the hardest for you to block out? What are the ones that are just like candy to a baby? And I can go first if you want me to be vulnerable first. I can say mine. Well, I'm down to hear yours.
No, that's okay. So I have this perception of where I need to be. And so when I sit down to do something for a longer period of time, I see these little things start to come up that I feel like I need to tackle first. It could be emails. It could be responding to a client. It could be recording a podcast or feeling like I need to be. Yeah, it could be any of these. And I've found some really great ways to overcome it. But yeah, there's all these little things that distract me from what I really want to be working on.
That is a classic procrastination technique where you sort of do things that are not urgent maybe, but you can pick off and get them done so out of your head.
Yeah.
Before you do the thing that's actually urgent and important. And yes, you said you developed some techniques to deal with that.
Yeah. So right now I took a regulation course earlier this year, and I've actually incorporated regulation into my coaching program because I think it's not only really beneficial for your life, but it helps you understand how you react to literally everything in your life. So now when I approach something on my to-do list, I have a plan for things. So I have permission to forget the things that I'm not doing immediately by writing them down, or I have a task manager that supports me so I can externalize my brain. But then in addition to that, when it comes to something I'm really uncomfortable with, I would choose to avoid that because that keeps me comfortable, right? But instead of simply avoiding it, I start to get curious and say, well, what's making me uncomfortable? I'll give you a specific example. I've been doing some networking in my local town, and I had one gentleman I was talking with who introduced me to another gentleman who was helping me get closer to this goal of mine. Now we're on the same email, but he's CC'd the other person. So I was avoiding this task because I wanted to be right in my answer or right in the way I responded. But I'm like, do I respond to both of them? Do I respond to one of them, acknowledging that I've gotten this email and then start a new strain of emails over here? Like, that is such a silly thing to be a block, but I was so uncomfortable
it's
and
so
I
real
addressed
that you
this.
have those moments of pause. Yes.
Yes, because I wanted to be right about it. And when I addressed that and reminded myself that it's okay that I'm just good enough because neither of them are going to be thinking about the way I responded. They're just going to accept it and move on with their day as I would any email that comes to me.
I love what you just said because you're right. There's that thing about perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yes. Yeah.
And the final thought you had, and I just want to hang a lantern on this, which is because I talk about this a bunch, is when you realize that everyone is starring in a movie called themselves, it relieves a lot of pressure on you because you're right. The two guys were not sitting there waiting for your email, staring at the computer day after day, just wanting to pick it apart. They're busy with their life. And they got your email on their phone while they're walking to their car from their grocery. And they're like, yeah, okay, cool. I can do that on Tuesday. And that's all they thought. They were not going, she used a semicolon. That should have been a comma. You know, should I write to one and BCC the other and then take them off the chain? No, they were just like, oh, I forgot eggs. Oh, that girl wrote me. Okay, right.
Exactly. And that perspective is everything, but it's fascinating how that discomfort of just doing a seemingly simple task has led me to avoid things that could be so easy. Okay, but now I want to flip the script back because you said you were going to be vulnerable. So tell me, what distracts you?
Oh, I can tell you because I looked at this really deeply. As we were designing Sukha, our website, I had to really go, okay, so what is it that holds me back from things? And where do I get in that thing of like things lingering on the to-do list or end of the day? Man, I was busy all day, but I didn't get the thing done. And there are two that are like headlines. There's some smaller things on that, right? One headline is this. When I encounter some bit of friction or frustration, I'm coding something and the build keeps failing. And I'm like, I wish I were a better engineer. In that moment of frustration, I will reach for my phone and I won't even think about it consciously. Like, I should have. It's just sitting there to my left. And it's like, I'll just pick up, I'll just check my WhatsApp rules. Megan wrote back, and it'll just be a minute. It's never a minute. And it is so beautifully designed. Every vibration, sound, the look of every notification, it's been A/B tested on billions of people, billions of times to make sure it is the most dopamine producing thing where it is, as Huberman, said, it's zero effort dopamine. It's just like pick the thing up and just let some dopamine wash over you, right? So that's number one is phone. And God knows I speak to a lot of people about distraction and traction and sort of thing. Phone is number one for everyone. It's just like, oh my God, it's the social media in there and the incoming stuff. For me, the other bad one is this. I'm working on my laptop where I am right now. And let's say, for example, there's like a component that I need to rewrite or something. And it's an open source component. Oh, there's a great 3-minute video some awesome engineer made saying, here's how this thing works. Da, da, da. Okay, let me just watch that video and that'll probably explain this and I'll move on. And at the end of that video, YouTube goes, Steven, I have some candy for you. Like for example, true story. I'm working on trying to get crispy skin salmon working well. And last night, like attempt number 3 got pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was from watching some YouTube videos and sort of being like, oh, so the oil and salt and the thing, right? And right at the end of the engineering video, go like, do you want to see there's a Gordon Ramsay video on crispy, skin salmon? I'm like,
absolutely, I do.
Right?
Yeah.
I should probably watch that. And that turns into, do you want to see something on the avionics of the A380? And I love airplanes. And I'm like, I do want to see that. And half an hour like that, right? So we did, this is going to sound so ridiculously simple and maybe stupid, but I think some of the best solutions are that simple. Is when we were designing our flow state site, I said, you know what? All I really need is a friend who sits next to me. Like if you were here next to me, which I couldn't pay you to sit next to me all day long, but it'd be great. But suppose you were sitting here. And when I went to reach my phone, all you need to do is say to me, Steven, is that helping you? Like, is that going to get you out of here? Because, I have a 9-week-old son. Playing with him is beyond the greatest pleasure of my life, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to say, hey, man, do you want to spend more time with him or more time on your phone? I'd be like, throw the phone in the trash. Get that here and let's go play with him. All I need is you to say, hey, man, is the phone helping you get out of here on time? And I'd be like, thank you. Oh, you're right. Let's put it down. Let's go back to work, right? Same thing with YouTube or Amazon or eBay, Etsy, anything where it's like, it's not really on task for me. We made a little modal that when you open that up and you're working, a little modal pops up and just says, hey, is Amazon helping you? And you just have that one moment to say, who do I want to be? Do I want to be the guy who's like playing with his kid later? Or the guy who's like, oh, Laura, after dinner, we got to race home because I didn't finish work today. You know what I mean? Like, I hate that thing of like, we got to cut dinner short because I really need to finish before the morning. I'd rather be out. And I'll tell you, it's actually a later story, but it's how we named our company. It was after a guy who told me this. Same thing with the phone is we made a thing where when you start a session, a little QR code comes up. You can shoot your phone, put your phone down. If I touch my phone during my session, my smart assistant, Sukha, says, hey, I see you on your phone. Is it helping you? And it's just like having Megs, sit next to me, be like, hey, do you want to do that? And you're like, no, actually, I don't. Thanks for tapping me on the shoulder.
Yeah.
I think that's sometimes all people need. Like there are a lot of website blockers where it's like cold turkey and freedom, where it's like, you can't open any of these websites. I find those a little disciplinary and a little harsh. I really just want my friend to be like, hey man, eye on the prize. And you're like, yeah, you're right. Thanks. I needed that.
Let's take a quick break.
If you're enjoying this episode, I have a quick favor to ask. Could you take just a minute to leave a review? I know. Every podcast asks, but here's the deal. Your review helps other ADHD brains like ours find this show. Plus, reading them seriously makes my day. So if something in this episode has helped you, made you laugh, or even made you feel seen, let me know by leaving a quick review. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you more than you know. Now, back to the episode.
I like that. Question for you, because I have tried some of the timers on my phone, right? Or I can only be on there for a certain amount of time.
Oh, yeah.
I've used Opal before, which I think it could work if I came back to it. But what I've found that works for me for social media, because my phone can still be a distraction, but it's because I delete all of my social media. And now I'm looking at my email, but there's nothing fun ever there. But because I'm so trained to do it, right? I still go to my email and I'm like, still nothing fun. And I put it back down again. So it's like training.
Your brain chemistry is trained for that.
It's so trained and it's crazy. There's even a technique where you can turn off the colors on your phone, which I tried and is fine, but is also so incredibly annoying to then do anything on your phone because nothing is dopamine. And I'm like, I need a little bit. But I'm curious, have you ever found yourself when the little widget pops up and says, is this serving you or, is this helping you?
Yeah.
that you get annoyed at it and you're like, yes, it is helping me, right? And you keep doing the thing that you're doing.
Well, here's the thing is, so we do offer the option. Like if I open YouTube and it's to genuinely watch like a YouTube video on engineering or something useful, right?
Yeah.
The little pop-up that comes to my screen after like 3 or 4 seconds, you get a pop-up that says, is YouTube helping you? There's a button at the bottom left that says, yes, please ignore this for this session. So it's like, okay, cool. Or at the bottom, it's like, no, I'll close the tab. And you can kind of most of the time choose I'll close the tab. I was kind of screwing around. But every now and then it's like, you know what, for the rest of this work session, I need to be in YouTube or whatever. Because, for example, this is going to sound so random. We have a bunch of publicists, like PR people who are in Sukha. Because there was a publicist, a junior publicist who was using it to focus. She was doing really well. The head of the company was like, why are you doing so well? She's like, oh, Sukha helps me block out a lot of stuff. So she got it for the whole company. She's like, I just want a company-wide license. And the thing they ran into is Twitter was on the default list of, hey, that's, a distraction. She's like, actually, we're paid to be on Twitter for all of these clients. So could you give us a way to say Twitter's not a distraction? So we're like, yeah.
Interesting.
So there's that. You can specify, actually, we give you a default set of websites that are pretty obvious. They're not work related. Are you on Etsy right now in the middle of your workday? Because it's helping. You know what I mean? Stuff like that, right?
I could argue that's very beneficial.
You can toggle them off. You give you about 25 of them saying like, here are the defaults. And then everyone has a little toggle because you're like, oh, no, actually, I do use Twitter for work. Just turn Twitter off. It's fine. And you can add your own. If you're like, I have an obscure website that sucks me in. Like we have a number of users in Europe and in Asia that I've never heard of the websites that they toggle off, but they're like, yeah, that's a problem for making me off this weird Finnish site. I'm like, oh, yeah, cool. Like IKEA of Finland or something. So
that's so fascinating. Okay. So
I think it comes to, like I say this though, this is what I believe because I have obviously I'm very lucky to have met a lot of people so far and talked to them about their practices. Like friends of mine created Siri, created Bing, created a lot of like the products we use. And you talk to them because they're high performers and like, how does this work? And what's interesting to me is the individual contributors, the people who actually do it, knowledge workers, often become team leaders. The best ones believe this, and I believe this deeply. We all have something great inside us. And the question is not, do you have that thing inside you? It's rather, will you get it out in this lifetime? Is this the lifetime where you go, I am going to write the next great American novel, or I'm going to actually start that restaurant, or I'm going to create the app or write the romantic comedy movie, whatever it is, like, are you going to get it out? And you as an individual can say, yeah, I want to do this, or no, I'm okay dying with it still inside me. And if you're a leader, if you view your job not as like, I got to make sure Megan's TPS report is in Friday at 10, you're not a manager, right? A leader goes like, I see the greatness in Megan and Steve and everyone else on my team. It's my job to help you get that out.
Yeah.
I need to give you conditions where you're going to do the thing people go, wow, I didn't know you had that inside you. You're like, yeah, this is what I have. This is who I am.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of the foundation of like, why be productive at all? Because if you're thinking I should be productive because, the insurance claims need to be filed or, what, the napkins need to be folded, whatever, like, not so inspiring. But if you're like, there's something that I am here to do, then you start to go, okay, how do I get the tools of the smartest people to do it? Because, the graveyards are full of people who died with the great thing inside them.
Yeah. I love the way that you're saying that.
Yeah. And I'd love to pick up on something you talked about in that goals episode. It is true that there can be a paralysis that happens when you have too many to-dos, too many tasks, too many goals, too many things that have to happen, right? And sometimes the best thing you can do is simply say, okay, today, what is the most important thing I can do? Choose that thing and make sure that thing gets done. Because if you stack up too many days in a row of, I didn't get the thing done, you start to tell yourself the story of like, you're not good. You're not going to ever do the thing, right? But if you do the opposite, you say, you know what? Yes, there are 17 things on my to-do list. The one that actually moves my life forward or my team's life forward today is this one. This is where I have to focus today. And you do that. And Monday night, you're like, ooh, win column, check. And you do the same thing Tuesday. That momentum builds. The same negative story that builds around like, oh God, I'm always behind. I suck. suddenly turns into, I'm actually crushing it because, that old Asian proverb about, Westerners overestimate how much they can do in a day and underestimate how much they can do in a year, right?
Yes.
And if you adopt that mindset of saying like, I am just today going to get this thing done. Anything else is icing, right? But this thing that moves my team forward, you start to change the story in your head. And that is a cycle that perpetuates, because then you see yourself as a high performer, or whatever word you want to use to say, I am actually singing my song. I'm doing the thing that I meant to do here.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful. And I'll tell you a funny story. So do you have problems like trying to multitask where it's like, you're kind of like, I can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You don't finish one thing, finish one thing. You rather like start a couple things. Do you ever do that?
Not anymore, but that's because I know, yes, but I absolutely used to. Yes.
Okay. So did I.
Yeah.
So did I. Here's what I did. And for those playing along at home, I know that 15, 20 years ago, there was this mystique around multitaskers and how they're high performers. They could do multiple things at once. And then later that was dispelled by realizing that we all just really monotask, but multitaskers basically monotask and then break their consciousness, have to store what they were doing on the last thing, some new task into memory, kind of work on that, and then go back and forth. So you context switch and burn energy there, as opposed to if you just monotask, you got it done with less brain energy, right? So I think we're all here big fans of monotasking, you and Cal Newport.
Yeah.
So that said, I was guilty of that because I would often look at my 17 things, and I had two problems with that. One, I would have this paralysis of like looking at my to-do list. What do you use for your to-do list manager, by the way?
Motion.
Motion. Oh, cool. Motion's great.
Yeah.
So I would look at it and there are so many things, it would almost be paralyzing, be like, where do I'm not going to get all this done, right? And the other thing is sometimes I would pick off things going like, well, I could work on this number 4 real quick and then wait, come back on number 2 and like do that thing. You know what we did in Sukha? You have, a task manager, simple. It just keeps your tasks in place. And what I did was I said, as soon as you start a session, I want to hide everything but my 3 top things.
Ooh, cool.
It really helped me focus because I could look up and look at those 3 and go, oh yeah, I can get those done this morning. That's totally doable. And I noticed with our members became 77% more probable that they would finish all 3 when they could only see 3. Then when they could see their whole list, they would finish 1 or 2.
Yeah.
That reason of like, you get distracted and you jump around. So it's almost like having like blinders on the horse, just go like run fast straight. And it's like, oh, I can win the race, as opposed to like, let's go through the woods and get lost.
Yes. I use the blinders all the time.
They're so simple. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to a friend the other day who's in my community as well. And we were talking about her goal for organization. I said, well, where do you want to be a year from?
Yeah.
She was telling me a little bit about what that looks like, this ideal, situation, everything has a place, blah, blah, blah. I was like, awesome. Okay, where do you want to be 3 months from now? She was like, okay, well, this is what my craft room looks like. This is what my kitchen looks like. Amazing. Cool. Where do you want to be in 1 month? Okay, well, I feel like this is doable. Okay, well, what can you do this week? And her immediate response was, I don't have time. And that was fascinating, right? Because we are so good at dreaming. But then when we break it up and we come back, we say, well, I don't have time to stop my life to do all of this today, but I've just given you a year. And that's the thing, is that our executive function doesn't allow us to really think about the minute details that come into it. But it really does take a little bit of effort every single day, just at 1%, right? One tiny
1%.
difference.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. I just read an article in Neuroscience magazine about micro practices, which I thought was fascinating. It's Eli Sussman is writing this book on micro practices. It's supposed to come out this year. I've decided from this article that I am now an expert, but it's just
glad to know you. I like knowing experts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But just the article was so fascinating in that instead of trying to meditate every day for 30 or 40 minutes, what if you simply meditated for 6 minutes 3 times this week? And is that much more realistic? In fact, if you're not straining, if you're not trying to stress yourself out to achieve these ridiculous goals that you've never been able to even closely get to before, you could actually get so much closer because you're making it realistic for who you are as a person right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the way that your program breaks down those 3 tasks, right? Because when we are looking at a to-do list that is 25 things long and growing because it never ends, it doesn't allow us to truly see what is able to be accomplished. We are only seeing what we're not going to be able to accomplish that day.
That is so true. And it's really powerful. You start stacking those wins. Even if you set it up so you have little wins that build that momentum.
Yeah.
Like, it is crazy for me. And I'll tell you, I alluded to this earlier, but this story, now that I'm a dad, makes so much more sense to me now than a year ago or a year and a half ago, I guess, when we had a working version of this website, right? Which helps you with all the little components for a flow state. I came up with every bad name as I was like, oh, what do we call it? A flow state app, distraction blocker. And I was talking to Laura. We got married, going off to our honeymoons. We met in yoga. So where do you go on your honeymoon? You do a ton of yoga. You go to Bali, right?
Yeah, amazing.
We're going to Bali. And I was talking to her. I was like, I have just been craving some name. Like Amazon is not called like bookstore. Nike's not called like shoe place. Like these aren't descriptive titles. They're just interesting. Like, oh, Winged Goddess of Victory. What an interesting way to think about your shoe company, right? My names suck. They've been awful. And I need like a real name for this thing.
Yeah.
We have users. We have people using this, right? So Laura said to me, you know what? The next 2 weeks, everyone knows you're on a honeymoon. No one's going to bug you to prove the stapler PO. Maybe the muses will sing. The universe will speak to you. So I was like, okay, cool. So we landed and I said to her, I was thinking what you said. And I think what might seed my imagination is, do you mind today if I talk quickly with like 2 or 3 beta users and just ask them, what's your favorite thing about this? Maybe over 2 weeks, that'll grow. Those seeds will grow into a cool name or word. And she's like, I'm going to the pool. I will see you at dinner. Good luck, my friend. I was like, okay. So I did. I put in the group chat. I was like, hey, who has 5 minutes, 10 minutes to talk to? 3 people did. The third guy, I was going to the wrap up where I'm like, hey, I can't remember, Michael, he's still a member, but I was like, I want to be respectful of your time. I said 10 minutes. It's been 8 minutes. I really appreciate, your thoughts on, you like the smart assistant, you like the, music, whatever. And he said to me, Steven, you asked the wrong questions. I was like, okay, guy, I don't know that well. I'll take the bait. What was the right question? He said, you should have asked me why I pay you. And I was like, dude, we charge $10 a month. Like I make this freely available. I don't even collect a paycheck. I just love doing this, right?
Yeah.
But okay, so why do you pay me? And he said, so I found the last year or so, I have 2 kinds of days. At 3:00, I'm playing with my kids. They're currently 2 and 4. Or at 6:00, I'm like, where did the day go? I was so busy, but I'm still behind and I have to get up early tomorrow training. He's like, I realized the difference is that I hit play in your website that morning. So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. Okay, you won that round.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. So I go to dinner and I tell this to Laura. I was like, I spoke to this dude today who's more articulate about what I'm doing than I know. She's like, yeah, that's really good. You should hire it. And we're going to bed, cute little honeymooners in our little white spa robes, brushing our little teeth. They're all cute. And she looks at me. She goes, you wanted the universe to talk to you. It did, through that guy. She said, in yoga, we hear all these Sanskrit terms like your karma, your prana, your life force, and your dharma, your duty in this lifetime. She's like, he described to you Sukha, that feeling of happiness when you're in control. You're in your lane doing what you're meant to do and you're good at it. She's like, that's what you should call your company, the Sukha company. And I went on, Network Solutions, whatever. It was available for $14. I bought it. We went to bed. And that is why my company is called the Happiness Company, the Sukha company.
That's really cool.
I have a little kid right now. And absolutely, when I think about I'm doing something, I'm like, is this going to get me to playing with him sooner? No. Let's stop doing that. Let's get back to what we have to do. And it's a whole lot of simple decisions. You just stack up those little wins. You go, oh, I'm back in control of my life. And it feels really nice.
That's incredible. I was just reflecting the other day. My husband, he comes home at 5 every day. That's when his workday ends and that's when he comes home.
Cool.
I was thinking about it because if he gets busy, it could be that he has to stay later. And I remember all the times that I would stay late, either in the office or, just thinking if I could get one more thing done, if I could just complete this. And of course, now looking back, I'm like, I have no idea what I was getting done. Of course, I just thought it was so important. But life, as humans, people on their deathbed typically say, I wish I spent more time with my family.
right? And enjoying those moments that truly make us human.
Yeah.
And right now, our world is just full of distractions that take us away from really adding up those moments that create a life and a journey that is so beautiful to live.
Megan, I so agree with you. I'm going to get on my soapbox for a moment because
Please
Laura
do.
and I have a bunch of friends who are either currently or have been at one of the Facebook companies, in Instagram or Facebook or at Twitter. And to really hear their stories, their after work, let's have a drink story of like what they're paid to do, what the real desire and goals of their companies are. It is a very hard thing to think about. My dad smoked for 37 years. Okay. He has heart problems because of that emphysema. He has had 3 friends die of lung cancer. And when I talked to him about that, I was like, Dad, like you did this to yourself. And like your friends like died of lung cancer, not randomly, because you smoke. Like, how could you guys do that to yourselves? And my dad's point of view is you don't understand. Like the movie stars were all smoking when I was growing up. Like the tobacco companies were putting out scientific studies on how tobacco is healthy for you. It's like it was a different time. And I think about my son's generation, and I really hope that his generation looks at us with social media the way I look at my dad with smoking, where they're like, okay, so you took 25 minutes to watch an underwear ad from Kim Kardashian, like it was educational or it was entertaining. It was an underwear ad. You treated that like content. And you spent how much of your life scrolling and double tapping? Of course. Wow, that's really hard. The way I think about smoking, I'm like, you killed yourself just smoking cigarettes. And Dad's like, you don't get it. Everyone was doing it. All the stars are doing it. I'm like, yeah, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, and Kim Kardashian, everyone's doing it. And it's amazing because if you look at the stock exchange, the highest market cap companies, their business model is basically steal your life, period, full stop.
Wow.
And it used to be, 10 years ago, Zuckerberg would be called to Congress to testify, and he'd do that all shucks thing. He's like, oh, Senator Crawford, Facebook's just here to show grandmothers videos of their grandkids. That's what we do, And now you listen to the earnings calls. There's no embarrassment. They are straight up, listen, we are using our trillions of dollars to pay the best engineers, the best designers, the best behavioral economists to steal as much of everyone's lives as we can. And by the way, next quarter, we have some new techniques we're going to deploy to steal more because we call this theft of everyone's lives shareholder value. We're building shareholder value. It is as if Mark called you up and said, hey, Megan, can I have your life? Because I'm going to sell it to these advertisers and I'll keep the money, but I'm going to give you some dancing cat videos. Is that to be great for your life? You end up 80 years old on the sofa, scrolling and double tapping, talking about how you could have written that book. You could have opened that restaurant. You had the idea for that app. And that's a miserable place to end your life, being like, oh yeah, should have. Yeah, I had that idea.
I love that you're saying this because I saw a commercial for Facebook over the holidays. I'm sure a lot of people saw it. And it was the guy who found his coworker on Facebook and wanted to find the perfect present for her. So he found like these little kiss ornaments on Facebook Marketplace, went and bought them. And then, how cool that he knows her that way. Right. And so it's driving this idea that it keeps you connected. And I deleted Facebook last year, like fully. I said,
congratulations.
Take it all away. I don't want it. Of course, I'm still on Instagram, but I've changed the way that I look at those platforms because I see how detrimental they've been over the last couple of years to me, even so much as to say like it's entrepreneur porn. Like you have to be on there in order for people to find you. I just see so much noise now and it's taking away that connectivity. So I've been striving to figure out how to connect in ways that truly fill me up. And the other day I asked my local community to show up and talk about ADHD with me. And 30 to 40 people showed up. I thought maybe 3 to 4 people max, right? 30 to 40 people were sitting there staring at me. And I'm like, okay, let's do this, right? And it was just so neat to be in person having these conversations with people.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
The thing you're talking about, and it's interesting because this is accelerated by the pressure of AI. This AI is saying, oh man, we can generate all sorts of content slop, blog posts, video, whatever you want. It's all just AI, feeding AI, being watched by AI. The value of human connection goes up exponentially because suddenly you crave authenticity. You crave like real. Like any mistakes that I make on this podcast, I will never ask you to edit out because it's actually real. I stumbled over, so-and-so's name or,
Yeah.
it's like leave it in because the AI slop doesn't sound like two people actually debating ideas, right?
Sure.
And when you talk about community, which is becoming that authentic nature of community is becoming much more important. How do you know the cadence to bring people together? How do you do it? Like, what is that like in your circle?
Initially, I thought that I needed to have it all figured out first. So I stopped trying to figure it out first and just realized I wanted to connect with my community.
Yep.
What I will say is the power of networking. It was hilarious because as I was sitting there and people were staring back at me, they were like, well, what's next? And I said, I don't know. And that's okay because we're going to figure it out.
Right.
And then we put together some additional monthly meetings. So now we're going to hold the meeting monthly, but it has allowed me to meet new people. I met this one gentleman came up to me afterwards and he's a musician. He plays the trumpet and percussion all over the world. And there was another woman who she just went through a separation and she's trying to figure out how to live her life outside of work with ADHD and find passion. Another woman, she was just like, nothing's going to work for me. I have no creativity. I don't know how to do it. But like, it was just so neat to see our walks of life. I mean, there were younger people, older people who were still working, people who were retired to just come together. And that was such a really neat experience. So what's the case? I don't know. I think.
Yeah, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going to figure it out. And I've been so nervous about doing it right. I've been so scared about being seen the wrong way. And I finally realized that whatever people's perception of me is their reality, but I'm going to keep showing up the way that I need to show up so that I can be the change I wish to seek in this world. And that's to really help people with ADHD understand that they can achieve anything, literally anything. You just can't do it all at once. That's it.
Yes, that is great the way you have been wrestling and been winning with your perfection versus progress sort of thing. You're allowing yourself to be like, you know what? Let's just keep moving forward. We're going to figure it out as opposed to like, I'm going to be paralyzed trying to be perfect. That's cool.
Absolutely. I interviewed Russ from ADHD Big Brother, who is also really awesome. Right. He was talking about how oftentimes we feel like we need to whole-ass something, right? So what if we just half-assed it? How do we half-ass something? It's so that we can whole-ass it, but we avoid the no-assing of it. And I'm like, what a beautiful way of saying that. And that's often something I think about. How can this just be good enough so that I feel more confident going into it next time?
This is one of the things that screenwriting, working with a bunch of great screenwriters, really showed me was if you read the first drafts of some of the movies that either are huge box office successes or won more awards, the first drafts are really like an expression of an idea. They are sometimes kitchen sink drafts. We throw everything in, trying to figure out what to then take out once you have it on paper. And I had that weird notion that like, oh, these people just came down from the mountain with tablets of the perfect screenplay. And they're like, yes, here it is. And it's like, no, man, like I can't go into the whole story, but the guy who wrote Chinatown had done this other project. It was like a World War II project, sprawling, like amazing, true story of a guy from the Army Corps of Engineers. And it's had everyone attached, Brad Pitt attached, David Fincher to direct, a whole bunch of stuff, right? And you read his drafts. And this is a guy who's written like some of the top 10 AFI screenplays in the world in history. And it is a sprawling mess. He hadn't wrapped his arms around it yet. There was a great story, but he was still trying to figure out like, how do you tell it in the form of a film? In a strange way, it was liberating for me because I was like, oh, okay, so it's a process.
It is. It's all a process. Our life is a process of learning and growing and understanding what we want. So many people start to talk to me because they're like, I don't know what I want. I haven't ever asked myself what I want, right? Because we're worried about what other people want or what the world wants or what Instagram is expecting of us. But that's part of it. We have to start taking action to truly understand what it is that we want. You won't sit there and understand by watching 18 videos on YouTube about all of these really cool things. Yeah, it might get you closer of understanding there's some really cool things to do, but in order to discover that's for you, it's about the action that you take behind it. I had a question for you because this has been coming up a lot in my community that I've noticed. And I love the way that you said earlier how
you get paid for this, right? But like, it doesn't matter. You're helping people like do these really incredible things in their life that they wouldn't have otherwise done because of all these distractions.
Mm-hmm.
So what does success look like if we stop measuring it by performance? We're so nervous about getting everything done. But even if we do get 25 things done at the end of the day, sometimes that doesn't add up to us feeling that fulfillment.
I get asked frequently, usually at the end of speaking engagements or podcasts or live speaking, like, what's the one most important thing you want everyone to walk away with, right? Which is a great way to say like, hey, let's bring us back to one thing. I love that. And invariably, I will say this. It is the best thing I can counsel you is in the morning before you dive into your inbox, before you make sure you're clear on what's the one thing, not 3 things, not 8 things, not a week's worth of things, not the goal for 6 months from now. So it's not write my book. It's, you know what, if I could just finish that outline of chapter 3 today, that would move my life forward. And think that doing that realistic stacking of things that move your life forward day after day, it changes your own belief in what you can do. Like everything sort of springs from there. It's like, make the ground fertile before you keep trying to plant seeds and some go on the sidewalk and some don't get watered enough. The first thing to do is just make the ground fertile. Just set yourself up to go, wow, for 5 days in a row, I've said, here's the one thing I need to do. You might be a writer, you might be a designer, you might be a web person, whatever it is. Start your day before you get into the thick of Zooms and all the cutesy stuff we do. Just go, what's one thing? Today, when I wrap, what's one thing where I go, I'm going to feel great because I got this done. And that I think is really important. You did say one thing that I just want to clarify, which is I do this for free. I actually don't collect a paycheck for Sukha. I just love doing this. And I'll tell you,
wow,
the thing that makes me and Tony, my partner, we both happily, we've done things in our life where like we can kind of do this now saying this is the thing. And by the way, as my kid grows up and my daughter soon, this will be the thing I tell them I do with my life more than any Independence Day, Wolverine, Die Hard, Transformers. Like this is, I think, the most impactful thing I've done. And I'll give you an example, which is we created a group chat so that if you're working, you feel you're part of a community of people who are all trying to do something with their life, right? It's different than being on Twitter where people kind of like hate on each other and or Reddit where people trying to sound smarter than each other. Here's just a group of people who all love doing this. It's like being part of a running club where everyone's like, oh, we're all running. How'd you do yesterday, right? And you can once a day post into the group chat something you did. So when you hit completed on a task, it'll ask you like, hey, you haven't posted yet today. Do you want to share this thing? And if you do, it'll say like, oh, Steven launched his new website in 2 hours and 15 minutes, whatever. And people can ask you like, oh, what's the URL, man? Let's go see it. Or share your blog post. You finished whatever it is, right? So there was a guy this past spring who posted in there, finished my dissertation. And people are like, hey, dude, that's kind of a big like mic drop. You just sort of feels like a big one. And this guy, Roy King, he said, yeah, I've been working on this the past year and a half, 2 years. He is an assistant vice principal of a high school in Missouri by day. But he said, by night, I'm working on my PhD in engineering. So I've been using, because he's also a dad. He's been using Sukha because I get basically 60 to 90 minutes at night of like work time. And I have to be super focused and efficient. So I use Sukha at night on the weekends to do this. He said, I got there. I turned my dissertation, but don't celebrate yet because I have to, defend it. We have to go in front of the panel and do that. He's like, that's like 2 weeks from Monday.
Yeah.
And people are like, okay, cool. And it was interesting because the Saturday, Sunday leading up to that Monday, a couple weeks later, people around the world that I know, I run the platform. I know they don't know him. Like they're in Japan, they're in Germany, whatever. We're just like, hey, Roy, you got this. Good luck on Monday, Roy. Like really nice little stuff, right? Nothing from Roy. Someone finally posts like, hey, anyone speak to Roy King? Like, did things work out today? Nothing. And then Tuesday morning, Roy logged in and posted, you may now call me Dr. King.
So cool.
Went nuts. And the knowledge that something I had done had enabled someone to do what they were trying to do, that is why I do this. Because I don't think we should live in a world where we allow these companies to steal our lives. I think that if there is a person who raises their hand and goes, I'm not going to my grave with this book in me, with this idea in me, whatever it is, and can I have some tool? Can I have some help here, people, to do that? Come to our community and like do the thing. Choose one thing in the morning Be focused, set aside an hour, 2 hours, whatever. Write that outline of that chapter. Write the business plan for the restaurant. Do the blog post draft, whatever that may be. Launch your new website for your coaching business, whatever that thing is. And it changes the world, like person by person, because as you start to feel, as they say in French, good in your shoes, it changes how you radiate energy into the people around you. And that affects them, and it sort of radiates outward. And I think the world could use a little more of that now.
Yeah.
Period. I better go.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
It is funny the way timing works, because my appreciation of what you share is greater now than it would have been before I knew I was going to be a father. And it's really made time more precious for me. And before I was medically diagnosed neurodivergent, where I was like, oh, I'm starting to see like this is not a random thing. This is just a way of being. And then how do you deal with that way of being? And I love that you started your coaching, your business, your pod, all this around like, okay, guys, like I want to give. It's a great thing. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. And anyone who's listening at this point, thank you for listening.
No, I really appreciate that. And I think there's nothing in this world that can hold you back aside from you. And when you start to understand some of these things that are getting in the way, it could be Instagram, it could be your phone, but it could be, something else entirely. But if you start to get rid of those distractions one by one, you start to see what kind of purpose you truly have. And I really appreciate this company that you've built, the beautiful name behind it.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks to Laura.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm a huge yoga aficionado myself, and something that I've allowed back in my life because I realized all of these other things that were distracting me is music. So I take a musical theater singing class every Wednesday, and it's been fascinating because it is for no other reason but just to be around people and to improve my voice and to see what I am capable of based on what I've done before, but also just bringing it back into my life. There's magic in the Berkshires when it comes to music and, being so close to all of these incredible humans. That is something that getting rid of all of these other distractions has really opened up for me. And I just appreciate that you've put together this a company to allow that for so many other people in this world. Because just like you said, we need so much more light in this world, people who are supporting people, community to drive the world forward to something so much better than what it is right now.
Yes. I don't know where we would end other than on that beautiful note.
Well, where can people find you? And I'll definitely put all the links in the show notes below as well.
Oh, probably two things the easiest. One, if there's any reference I've made, or you and I have talked about Cal Newport, me or Kotler, Mihai, that someone wants to know more about, they can email me. I'll happily send them like, here's a great blog post by Cal Newport you should read or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So my email address is very public. It's Steven, Steven, at the Sukha, which is TheSukho for company. So drop me an email. I'm not going to write you back the history of my life because you don't want to read it. Not enough time to write it, but I will send you probably something helpful like, oh, here's a great thing to read. And if someone wants to try being in a flow state and say like, you know what, this week I want to set aside an hour, a couple days a week and do something. It's free for 3 days. Like try it out. It's obviously at thesukha.co, TheSukha.co.
Yeah.
Come say hi in the group chat.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much for listening to Organizing an ADHD Brain. Just remember, I am not a doctor or a mental health professional. Everything I share here comes from my own lived experiences or my professional experience coaching other ADHD humans. If you need medical or mental health advice, please reach out to a licensed medical professional. What you hear on this podcast is for support and education, and how you use the information is completely up to you. For more resources, free downloads, and different ways to work with me, whether through coaching or the community, please go to organizinganadhdbrain.com. And don't forget, the perfect place to start is right where you are.